This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Rob and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello, and welcome back yet again, dear listener, to another edition of Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media and brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. I am Tim Johnson, joined as always by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing this evening?
Not too bad. I think we're going to get some snow tomorrow, so I'm not super excited about that because, February snow sucks ass.
Oh no, snow. Are you okay?
I know.
Oh, that seems so sad. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I mean, in my defense, it was 50 some degrees today. I had the top down on the car.
Yeah, I would always prefer, and I think the rest of the public would, if you would just leave the top on.
All right.
Yeah, well, no, I gotta jump in. Why wouldn't I? Frankly, I think that's only fair. We've had a lot going on here at Three Beards Media, so listeners, I think, have a lot more things to listen to as well, not just from us, but from all of our other podcast partners at Three Beards Media. Chris, before we get into things, I wondered if you want to go ahead and kind of talk and highlight some of the things we have going on.
Yeah. So we are, we've launched a couple of new things this month. Bill Blank, a local comedian here in Des Moines, Iowa, and myself have hosted and launched a new podcast called False Starts, bringing mental health back into the playbook. It's really designed to sit down and talk about men's mental health and being open about it and taking it kind of out of the shadows, along with Des Moines Police Department Inside the Tape with Paul Parizic and Dave Campbell. They had to reschedule their first episode. Paul is working on some deeper stuff right now, so we are postponing the first episode, but it is in the works and ready to go. I think Side of the Storm guys are recording right now on another channel while they're watching a game, so it'll be a live reaction there. You guys just recorded a new episode for Bitter Units, and then your episode with Confluence just got launched last week. And Hot Mess Happy Hour is due to record next week, I think. So we are moving and grooving.
We are absolutely in the thick of things, for sure. And we also had a guest host on this podcast in my absence since I was stuck at work. I do want to give a huge shout out to George Trice for filling in for me. If you guys aren't listening to Side of the Storm, please go ahead and give that podcast a listen. And if you are not paying attention to all the work that George is doing with the Trice Foundation, please please go ahead and take a look at that. But Chris, I want to go ahead and just give you the opportunity to introduce our guest for this evening.
Yeah. So I have been listening to this gentleman on local TV, local radio, read him in the newspaper, probably for, I mean, since I was a younger gentleman. So, Mr. Movies, Mike Woody, the local, probably the best movie critic here in the Midwest, as far as I'm concerned. Mike Woody, thanks for coming on Old Man Strength.
Wow. What were you in, like, third grade? Is that what you were saying when you started?
I'll tell you, Mike, man. I'm not very good at this transition stuff. I got halfway through that and I thought, oh, this is going to come off as insulting, and it's really not meant to be. So, makes you feel any better? I did the same thing the other night on my other podcast. So, what can I say?
All right. Well, yeah. I might be the best in town because I think I'm the only one in town.
No, I said Midwest. I said Midwest. Now that Roger Ebert's not with us anymore.
Yeah, wow. That's rarefied air there, my friend. So.
Right? No kidding. No kidding. In all seriousness, I appreciate you coming on. Part of the reason why I wanted to ask you to come on was I'd like to settle a long time debate that Tim's choice in pop culture and movies is worse than mine. But part of the reason I wanted to bring you on too was I enjoy a lot of the things that you tweet about. You're a big Iowa fan. We'd love to dig into that. You and I have something in common. I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit. We're both cancer survivors. So I wanted to give you a shout out for that as well. But why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more in depth about yourself?
All right, let's see. I don't really do a lot of speaking engagements, so
yeah. Okay.
let's wing this a little bit. I grew up in Peoria, typical Midwest, altar boy, as Boy Scout. Went to first year of high school there, and then my dad, who was in the insurance business, told the family that he had two opportunities to get his own agency. One was in Spokane and one was in Sioux City. I voted for Spokane.
As anyone with taste would.
And he voted for, I don't even know if the rest of the family voted, quite frankly. But it was just, I ended up in Sioux City. I walked into Sioux City Healing as a sophomore, and I guess you don't realize how traumatic that can be because everybody else in the school grew up together in their grade schools, and then here this guy walks in and they're like, who the hell are you? All the clubs, all of the teams, everything had already been set up as the freshman. So I walked in and just kind of had to tread water. But by the time I was done there, I was doing just fine. So that being said, I headed for the University of Iowa. Had quite a bit of time there. Enjoyed myself greatly.
I feel like there's more to that story.
Just a little bit. I don't know, joined a fraternity, worked at the Astro Theater, worked at World Radio. And then I became the bouncer at the field house. And anybody that was in the field house in that day and age, it was the biggest bar in town. And somehow I was the head bouncer, which it doesn't mean anything other than I just got to order the other people around, the bigger people. But we saw the dark side of some athletes, and we saw the bright side. It was a great job.
So you're saying that the Patrick Swayze movie as him as a bouncer was basically
Roadhouse?
Your life story. Yeah.
Not quite. No, but I can tell you which Stoops brother you want to throw out and which one you don't. Okay, Bobby, you don't want to throw out. He's a mean son of a gun. Mike, we threw Mike out and he laughed all the way to the front door. He just thought that was the greatest thing. And he just didn't understand why he couldn't get up on the bar and crawl around on his hands and knees. Dude, just go home and sober up. We'll see you tomorrow night. It was, I probably enjoyed my time in Iowa City more than most people did, but it was a great time to be in Iowa City. So I left Iowa City finally and made it about halfway back to Sioux City, landed in Des Moines with my English degree, and they forgot to tell me that there were absolutely no jobs for English majors, and you just basically had to find something to do. So I went down to the cable company. I didn't even know what I was applying for, and ended up selling cable television door to door, which I did not need my English degree for.
I didn't even realize door-to-door cable sales were a thing. I was in such a small town that nothing was sold door to door because no one would travel to go visit the 7 households to sell us anything.
You know what? I thought if nothing else, it was a great way to learn the city of Des Moines.
Sure.
Because I'd never lived here, so I didn't know. And so they would hand you a big stack of cards, and you would just walk door to door, literally, and knock on the doors, and the card would say whether they had cable or not. And then, I was in the winter, I was out with my big coat and my Playboy Channel stocking cap, which my wife still loves when I, snow blow the driveway with that on. But, I sold door to door for a while. Interesting story. My first week, never having sold a thing in my life, I actually led the sales team in sales. And what did they do? They promptly wrote me up because I told them I'd only work 20 hours. But they asked me how many hours I worked. I wrote it down. I didn't know I was supposed to work 40 hours. So they wrote me up, and then that was an early lesson on how to lie in business and get ahead. So stayed there for a year. There was a job out at the cable television studio. Again, no idea what that was. I went out and applied for a job. Long story short, I got the job. And I spent 25 years in advertising sales, and figured at 25 years that was good enough, and kind of retired and left and decided, why don't I just open like an ad agency and help businesses figure out their stuff. So that's what I've done for the last almost 15 years. So if you see commercials on television for things like Mr. B Clothing or Wilson Toyota or Lodge of Ashworth, Iowa Radiology, Iowa Cubs, I work with the Iowa Cubs, Holt Plumbing, Iowa State Bank. I mean, I've got about 15, 16 accounts, which keeps me more than a little busy. I've got a beautiful wife who's the director of the Des Moines Library. I've got 2 redheaded sons, and that's it.
So, well, that's not just it. So Chris introduced
Right.
you as the premier Midwest movie critic.
Oh yeah.
You didn't tell us entirely how you got into that.
Okay, you want the honest truth?
No, I
Yes.
want you to lie to me.
Okay. I was
like
paid
every
$10
woman in
million
his life.
to do that. I begged. Back in the day at the cable company, and again, I'm at the studio, so all the production's going on out there. Back in the day, CNN Headline News had a 5-minute local break at the bottom of the hour and the top of the hour that they offered to their affiliates to fill with a news break or whatever. Well, we didn't have any news, so My boss at the time, a guy named Rich Gilman, God rest his soul, said, I think you should do some movie reviews. And I'm like, really? And he said, yeah, why not? And he had tennis tips on there. He had golf tips on there. And then movie reviews. I think there was something else on there. I don't even remember. And so I would go sit in front of a camera once a week and tape a little 5-minute segment, which ran like 6 or 7 times a day. Then, and here's where it gets bad. Then I got a phone call from a guy who had a radio show. His name was Marty Terrell.
Mm-hmm.
And Marty said, I'm going to pay you $25 a week if you come in and talk to me on the radio and review movies.
Did he
Okay.
actually pay you?
He still owes me the last 25, but yes, I'm very good at collections. Let's just put it that way. So then Marty leaves because he got a job with the Boston Celtics. He leaves me with a guy named Tim Dara. Tim and I had fun for a while. Tim left. And then they brought in this other guy named Steve Dace. And this is back, there was several different iterations of these radio stations. One was in the Skybox or the Cub Club at Principal Park, KXTK. And that just wasn't working for them. So they shut it down, and Dace got an opportunity to go to what is now KXNO. And he says, I want you to come with me, which was kind of surprising, quite frankly, as much as he harassed me. And Dace and I did that for, actually, I take it back, because the first place we went, Dace, we started in Sports Talk, and then Dace got an opportunity down the hall on WHO radio. And I figured, well, certainly you're not going to take me to WHO radio. And he did. And so we did that until he took off, and now he's doing his own gig on some service that you got to pay. And actually, we'll talk about it. He's got a new movie coming out, which I've seen and is really good. But Dace, I had an opportunity to stay with Simon down on WHO. He wanted me on Friday nights at 5:30 for 5 minutes. And I'm like, that neither one of those sounds really appealing to me. And I knew that Murph and Andy down the hall had inquired about me coming down with them. And I've been there ever since. And I did it this afternoon. It's just those two guys are everything that you hear on the radio. I mean, they're just exactly like they sound, and they are having more fun than they really should. So that's how I got in the movie review business.
So didn't you have, I feel like, didn't you have a small stint on MC22 as well?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I think MC22 came in later.
Okay.
You're just remembering those little headline news breaks.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what that might be what it is.
That could be it.
Well, you and I have a not a similar experience, but yeah, I have a history with Marty Terrell as well. So
Did you get paid?
after we went to court,
Oh, ouch.
I'm sure that you've heard the story of the Vegas trip and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that would be my father and I. That's who that story is. So yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm sure he's living it up in some cushy little halfway house in Ankeny at this point, I think is where he's at.
Boy, his ex-wife is all over him on the Twitter feed, though.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because the guy has more talent than most of the people I've ever known on the radio. He's a flawed character. And it's just, he's done bad things to good people, and it finally caught up with him.
Yeah.
As it should.
For sure.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
So we sent you a list of movies that Tim and I compiled.
Yeah, I was gonna pull that up. Like I was like,
I've got it.
What did I even send? Because I believe
I don't know, but okay. So have I got? I may not have it all, but
Well, we'll read them as well. But
okay.
For the listeners, the gist of this is that Tim and I constantly will battle back and forth about pop culture stuff, and I am hammered for either not seeing a movie or not enjoying a movie that everybody thinks that I should enjoy, because I just don't conform to society.
Oh,
norms,
I just don't conform. Look at how he's already painting himself as some sort of weird counterculture. Whatever. I mean, you literally chose Dances with Wolves and Shawshank Redemption as your favorite movies, and you want to say I don't conform. Good Lord.
You can see where this is going, Mike.
You
Yeah,
might
I
as well
can
say,
see
you
exactly
might as
where
well
it's
just
going.
say that like your heroes are Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Jesus, and just pretend like those are the only people you ever learned anything from. Like,
First
for
of all, I'm
Pete's-
not entirely clear on the whole Gandhi deal and when he was and who he is. I'm just going to be
well,
honest.
no, that does not surprise me at all.
I think I knew him in Sioux City.
Oh my. Okay. So anyway, yes, we did send you. So to prep me for this episode, Chris said, "Hey, pick your 10 favorite movies," and then he narrowed it down to 5. I have a hard time with an assignment like that, because that's not the way I watch movies. I have a hard time ranking anything. So my top 5 were certainly in no particular order. But they were probably maybe the 5 I've watched the most. And
Right.
that was kind of the way I came down to it.
So since you didn't put whose list was whose list,
Oh, I think I did. Yeah. Mine is
Tim-
the top.
okay, Tim, yours is the top.
No,
All
mine's
right.
the top.
So Chris, okay.
The one with Dances with Wolves is Chris's, and I did not put that in my list of most overrated, but I kind of wish I would have put Dances with Wolves. In my
As,
list.
as I was talking with a friend of mine last night, he claims that is the exact same movie as Avatar.
It
only
is.
with blue people.
It is. So I probably already put it in my most overrated. So anyway,
It's actually a better movie than Avatar, but
yeah. So let's go ahead and start off.
all right.
We'll say this. Okay. So Chris's top 5 movies were Dances with Wolves, Shawshank Redemption, Midnight Run, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, not Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. As
I
he
was
told
drinking
me.
last night.
He
when I
was
Oh my
close.
goodness.
He was close.
And The Godfather.
Okay.
And then my top 5 were Casablanca, Snatch, Better Off Dead, Moulin Rouge, and The Dream Team. Very wildly different lists.
Yes.
Not anywhere close at all.
Tim, I there's 2 on your list that I haven't even seen.
Okay.
There's
Alright.
4 that I haven't seen.
Better Off Dead,
You've never seen Better Off Dead.
never seen it. And The
Okay.
Dream Team.
Okay. Better Off Dead, Savage Steve Holland, written, directed, produced. John Cusack, early vehicle. It's got David Ogden Stiers in some of his most beautiful comedic acting whatsoever. Curtis Armstrong as a great sidekick. It's a fantastic almost send up of coming of age movies.
Okay.
It is one of those things that I watch once a year. Fantastic movie. I love it. It's got a beautiful quirkiness. If you've ever seen One Crazy Summer with Demi Moore
Yes.
and John Cusack, that's also Savage Steve Holland. Same filmmaker, same genre, same type of vibe.
Well, if I've seen it, I don't remember it. How's that?
Okay. And then the Dream Team is Michael Keaton, Stephen Furst, Peter Boyle, and Christopher Lloyd, four escaped
Okay.
mental patients who
Okay, yes,
who
I
are on
have.
their way to a Yankees game.
I have seen that.
It's not the best movie plot wise, but it is a masterclass in watching these four talented actors just explode all over the screen.
Okay. So, do I get to choose now? Is my camera not on?
No, it's not.
Well, wow. What the hell?
I just assumed you didn't want to be on camera, Mike.
Now, what are you talking about? Oh man. Oh yeah. Whatever. I'll figure it out somehow.
I have only seen one of those, and it's Better Off Dead. And I will say it is a phenomenal movie. I'll agree with Tim. The other four I have not seen.
You've never seen Casablanca.
Old, black and white, didn't interest me. Sorry.
Chris, don't do that.
Thank you, at least for that.
It's
Don't
the
do that,
truth.
Chris.
I'm sorry. I'm being honest.
Okay. Perhaps the greatest movie ever made.
Thank you very much. That's the only one I was certain should be in my top 5. The other 4 I kind of punted on, but that one is probably my all-time favorite.
Now, the only one that would compete with that, in my mind, is The Godfather.
Yeah, yep, and I have no problem with that being in Chris's top 5.
Yeah,
I honestly was not upset with at least 3 of Chris's top 5.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was it Dances with Wolves you had problems with?
Dances with Wolves is the one I have the biggest problem with. Yeah, absolutely.
What is your problem with Dances with Wolves?
So first of all, the lack of authenticity in casting, the lack of authenticity in language, and my biggest problem was the white savior issue that I have with that movie, which is the same problem I have with Avatar. Is
No.
at the end of the day, it needs some handsome young white guy to fix everything that's going on. That the only way that they were able to fight and defend is because they had some charismatic white guy. To me, that was a big glaring issue that I found not just offensive, but also just silly and anachronistic and completely it just lacked authenticity. Plus, side note, Kevin Costner, one of the top 5 most overrated actors of all time, in my opinion.
Oh my God.
Now,
I'm going to sit back. Mike, you go ahead.
Tim.
Yeah.
You know it did win Best Picture of the Year, right?
Cool. Crash won Best Picture of the Year. Shakespeare in
Crash.
Love won Best Picture of the Year.
Both great movies.
The English Patient won Best Picture of the Year.
Okay, that's a problem.
Winning Best Picture of the Year doesn't mean anything to me. Shakespeare in Love and Crash and The English Patient were all garbage. Just because you win Best Picture of the Year doesn't mean that you're a good film. And again, that's why I would argue overrated.
That's exactly what it means.
No, it doesn't. Because again, if you know, I'm sorry, I speak the English language, and the word overrated means given higher praise than is due.
Okay,
And
but that's a personal opinion. Yes, absolutely.
Cool. So isn't that what we're literally looking at? Is this overrated? So when I say it's overrated,
okay,
it is given more praise than it is due.
In your opinion?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. So in your opinion, English Patient?
No.
Oh, so you agree that Best Picture doesn't mean anything?
No, I know I didn't say that at all. I said
Oh.
that there has been some accidents in this.
Oh, so this couldn't be an accident that also applies?
Perhaps.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. It almost feels like we're actually understanding.
I enjoyed Dances with Wolves. It is an extremely well-made film.
To make white people feel better about themselves.
No,
Yeah.
let me put it this way. The whole premise of the movie is, and obviously historical references, is that the white man begins to completely wipe them from the face of the earth,
Sure.
and their culture is, and I think what he does in that movie is not necessarily saves them, but
I think you need to
clues
watch.
them
I think
in.
you need to watch that again. Literally, he's the white savior. The only thing that can save them is a white man.
That's not. Yeah, but
That's-
he doesn't eventually. I mean, it's not like they live to have their own little section and are fine. I mean, they are eventually eradicated as well, according
Exactly.
to history. So he didn't save them, but I do think that he was a conduit for them for him to understand what their culture was. We were learning their culture through his eyes. That's
He
how
was,
I see that
he
movie.
was
And-
showing compassion to people that no one else was showing compassion.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if you would have told that story through their eyes instead of through the eyes of a white man, I would have bought that more as a believable story. But it was the only way to tell this. It still made the central. Who is the main character in the movie?
He is, of course he is.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's a story about them, but the main character is not them. That I mean it. I mean I'll even argue that I think an overrated movie is Remember the Titans, because again, it has a white quarterback as kind of the one that bridges the gap to do anything. And also, I think it's way too Disneyfied. It's way too Disneyfied.
Way
and
too Disneyfied.
It's way too Disneyfied. It's way too safe. Like, even when you get to, I'm not saying that I need to have like offensive racial slurs, but they made it way too safe and way too happy. And Hayden Panettiere being the cute little plucky young, precocious blonde girl to talk about things. It's still storytelling for other people that is really just storytelling for white people. And that was probably my biggest problem with Dances with Wolves, is that it's trying to tell a story to white people, but still make white people feel like the main character.
So let's leave Dances with Wolves and go down to Midnight Run.
I have no problem with that movie. I think that's a great movie.
It's
I-
a
it-
great film.
It's
And a lot of people still have not seen it.
Yeah, I had my wife and my daughter watch it for the first time. They didn't get it. But I've loved that movie since the time it came out. It makes
Yeah.
me laugh still to this day.
I mean, you've got some great performances. Obviously, De Niro and Charles Grodin, two of the all-time greats. I don't think you can
Yes.
even question that. But what's his name? Joe Pantoliano has a great performance there. Dennis Farina, one of the earliest
Dennis Farina is my
Farina,
favorite in that movie.
Yeah.
right? I mean, he was maybe only 3 years removed from being a New York detective. Like, he wasn't that far into his acting career when Midnight Run came out, and he had very quickly gone into the. By the way, Common Ground, very similar character to what he plays in Snatch, which is on my top 5.
Yep.
Dennis Farina's character in Midnight Run is very similar to the character he plays in Snatch. Is that, Mike? Would you agree with that?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Snatch is a very interesting choice too. Top 5 of all time? Maybe not. But
Well, I mean, I told you, I struggle with top 5. It was top 5 movies I've probably watched the most of.
I mean, if I look at your list, you start with Casablanca, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we're on a roll here. Then you kind of go to Snatch, which is a very good movie.
Mhm.
Better Off Dead, I can't speak about. The Dream Team, I really can't speak about. Moulin Rouge, I think, is brilliant.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen the play, wow, the play is brilliant.
I've
My
not-
wife and I went to Boston for no reason And we wandered by this ticket office. And she says, well, let's see if anything's going on in Boston tonight. And they had the debut of Moulin Rouge. We show up, and here it is. All the paparazzi are there. They're taking pictures of, out in front. And it's like, wow, this is kind of cool. And the play was absolutely fantastic.
I also think it's Baz Luhrmann's best movie. All apologies to Strictly Ballroom. Less apologies than anything else. But I think what he does to capture
Elvis.
I think what he does to capture turn of the century France, to capture post-impressionism of the late 1800s in France, the way he captures the zeitgeist of that time is just more than, it's a lot harder to do than Elvis or some of these others. I think what he has done in that, and then like also just some brilliant casting. John Leguizamo as Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec is just God, I love it. Jim Broadbent does a fantastic job. And then, I mean, Hugh McGregor and Nicole Kidman, very affable, very...
Yeah, the music's great.
Yeah. And I'm not a musical guy. I was a theater guy in college. I'm not a musical guy. But what that did, it changed my mind about musicals more than kind of anything else probably could have. Just because of the way it captured, like I said, the spirit of the age.
Yeah, it's a brilliant film. It really is. And it's one of those movies that if you see it as you're scrolling through the television set, it's like, oh, no, I got to stop and watch that for a while.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would argue on Chris's list, Shawshank is also, it feels like a very obvious choice. One that's as of late been popular to kind of hate on, and I'm not going to be one to hate on it. Some people have gotten sick of it just because from 2003 to 2019 it was on TBS every other Tuesday and every Saturday and twice on Sunday.
Right.
And so you couldn't trip over a remote without finding Shawshank on TV.
But almost nobody saw it in the theater.
Oh no,
So everybody's
absolutely.
catching up, and there's still people catching up that haven't seen it today.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why it was probably on my list, because it fits into that category of if I see it on, I have to watch it, regardless of what part of it is, because it is. I get so wrapped up in it, and it's one of those movies where you watch, like when Tommy gets shot in the yard. You watch it how many times and you know it's going to happen, but you think, well, maybe this time it doesn't happen, right? Because you're that invested in the character.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the movie that if you're talking to somebody and they say, hey, I saw this movie the other day, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, you know it's Shawshank.
Yeah.
Because they're still finding it, and it's just a brilliant film. And then you tell them it's a Stephen King story, and they're like, no, it's not.
Yeah, that's the one that kind of throws you.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that's kind of the one of the things that's so brilliant to me. So, this is post Stand By Me. So I think we've all finally realized Stephen King isn't just a horror writer, right?
Correct. Right.
And so we've learned that he does a little bit more, but it's still pre-Green Mile. And I think people were still kind of discovering the depth of who he is as an author, first of all. So many people think of Carrie and It and things like that. Like they don't think about how just great of a storyteller he is. But they'd forgotten about Stand By Me, or they'd forgotten about some of the other things.
Yeah.
This was the one that I think made it a little bit more broader to an audience, certainly for people of my generation, that it became broader, that's a Stephen King type of thing.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with anyone who wants to hate on that film. And like I said, it's kind of been the hate du jour that I think was born out of exhaustion rather than legitimate criticism.
Now, back in Iowa City, I took classes as often as I could from a guy named David Morrell.
Mm-hmm.
David Morrell wrote a little story about a guy named Rambo, and did very well with that.
Mhm.
And so he told us in class one time that he had a friend of his coming to Iowa City to speak. And we're like, okay, who is it? Well, it's Steve King. Okay. I was like, well, yeah, I think we're going to go. So a buddy of mine from the fraternity house, we went. I took a book so he could autograph it. And he comes out, he walks across the stage. He's got one of those big old briefcases, and he opens it up and he pulls out this huge manuscript, which we find out later was it. And this is like a long time before it came out. And then he reaches back in the briefcase and he pulls out a tall boy of Budweiser, cracks it open, reads while he's drinking, and then he finishes the beer, puts it down, and reaches in and pulls out a tall boy of PBR. And I'm like, you didn't even have a full 6-pack?
Just
But
grab him
you-
whatever random beer he's got in the fridge.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, whatever was left in the fridge. And did he bring it from Maine, or did he stop at, Little John's grocery there? I don't know. But it was, I got my book signed, and it was quite an event. It was a lot of fun to listen to him read.
That's pretty incredible. He always strikes me as someone who is well, I mean, obviously intelligent and witty and dry.
Very dry.
Right. Yeah, I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, but every kind of interview I've seen with him or whatever, like almost painfully dry. But if you're tuned in or locked in, like you really, really, really get it. And if you're someone who doesn't, you're just not going to. Is that fair?
I think that's very fair.
Did you know that Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage is the perfect person to contact if you're a first-time home buyer? Kyle has some amazing programs available right now. So go watch his series with Caitlin and Walker when they take their first steps to home buying on our Three Beards Media YouTube channel.
Not a bad price range right there.
No, and I really want to get out of this apartment.
Yeah.
Tired of renting, want something to own,
Yeah.
make our own.
Put family equity.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start though.
Me either. I mean, how would we go about looking into buying a house? I mean, honestly, I don't know too much about it.
Yeah. Well, I know my dad has this sponsor for his podcast, Kyle Lehman with Wintrust Mortgage.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned something to my dad about wanting to talk to first-time buyers. So maybe we should FaceTime my dad and get some more information.
Sounds like a great idea.
Okay,
Stephen
so are
King.
we done? Let's get down to this list at the bottom.
Oh, the overrated, yeah.
The no. The top 5. The your top 5.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Casablanca, great.
Yeah.
Snatch, nah, I don't know. And what I don't have is your top 5 overrated. That's the piece I'm missing here.
Yeah, it's at the bottom, very bottom. Starts with the Sixth Sense.
That probably is left on the printer somewhere. So
Okay, well, so yeah, my overrated are Sixth Sense, Avatar. Kind of a shocker here, but The Breakfast Club.
Mm,
Not to say that I don't think it's a good movie, but I think it's overrated. Pretty Woman. And then I said anything by Michael Bay, or anything starring Tom Cruise, excluding the Top Gun franchise.
oh, he's got to have something else in there.
There's probably something else in there, but as of late, I've had a hard time enjoying any of it. Like, I mean, like Cocktail, I can't stand. Jerry Maguire, I think is just drivel. The Mission Impossible movies, I appreciate them for what they are, but I don't think they're great.
Yeah, they bore me.
Yeah. Okay, so Sixth Sense, would you agree Sixth Sense is overrated?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't see that telegraphed a mile away?
No.
I
at
did
all.
not.
I did
Oh
not.
my God.
I didn't either.
So I was so confused at the twist ending because I thought we all knew the entire time that Bruce Willis. Sorry, spoiler alert to our listeners who have been in a coma for 40 years. I thought we literally all knew the entire time that Bruce Willis was dead. I thought we were all in on it. I thought only he didn't know that. So it had no, like, I'm sorry, all of M. Night Shyamalan's movies, to me he telegraphs them, even in The Sixth Sense. Like,
But this was such an early movie,
Hey,
you didn't know that.
I did.
Well, you must just be smarter than we are.
No, because he telegraphed things with like a red doorknob. There's nobody has a red doorknob. That stuck out.
I didn't know what that meant.
I didn't know that I knew what it meant, but I knew that he was trying to send us a really obvious hit you over the head. I think you're dumb. Let me be obvious to give you a clue signal. But literally from Bruce Willis's
what happened?
from Bruce Willis's dinner with his wife,
Yeah.
where she doesn't look at him in the eye, doesn't talk, signs the bill and leaves. To me, that was a very painfully obvious Bruce Willis isn't really there.
Yeah.
I
wish I'd have known that. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when you find out what it is, it's like, oh my God.
See, to me, I was confused when the payoff moment to me wasn't a payoff. I literally thought we all were in on it, not because someone had spoiled the movie up, because I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this from a spoiler perspective. I'm not somebody I think that figures out the twist. Man, I can watch the movie Clue. Ooh, Clue might have been something that should have been in my top 5. I watched that a lot. But one of those things where I don't know. I'm not good at figuring that out, and so that one to me felt painfully obvious, and that's why I think it's overrated. But you know what? I guess if you were shocked by it, I get why it isn't. To me, I
think you were in a minority, because the majority of people did not see it coming, which is why it made so much money.
I know, but I think he's such a heavy-handed director. I really think,
of course, he is.
He's heavy-handed. I can't deal with ham-fisted. So even if it was a surprise, again, red doorknob, it still felt like a ham-fisted attempt at intrigue.
Now, Knock at the Cabin Door, which opened last weekend, M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay.
Not bad. Not bad.
I'll
very
give
interesting story.
I'll give it a try, but all the other ones that he's done, I've just struggled.
Yeah.
If he's developed more nuance, then I'll give it to him. But foreshadowing is one thing, or using devices, even if they're just MacGuffins, is one thing, but he uses any MacGuffin like a cudgel, and I think that's my problem.
He's a huge Hitchcock fan.
Yeah,
you know that.
So. Oh yeah, but and I almost put The Birds on my list. Which I have my own problems with, which is why I didn't. But I think I feel like he's doing a poor man's version of Hitchcock.
See, now The Birds does not, in my mind, doesn't hold up. But when I was little and that thing came on TV, it was intense.
Yeah, I mean, there's parts of Casablanca that don't hold up, frankly, but I still think it's one of the best movies of all time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what's wrong with The Breakfast Club?
Okay, I knew this would be a controversial one. My challenge with The Breakfast Club is, as someone who has been in high school, they all felt like I didn't believe any of the characters. That was my biggest problem. I get the coming of age. I get I get the idea that you have people of disparate backgrounds spending an afternoon together and learning more about each other. I have my own issues. Again, probably some of the actors I have issues with. Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson. But I also think that for all the cliques that happen in high school, for all of the social walls that are built up, maybe heavy-handed is the word I want to use again, is it felt too blatant and not nuanced
Well,
enough.
each one was representing a group of
Sure.
kids. and
Sure. Yeah. No, they were each
It
representing a
was
group
still
of kids.
fun.
It was fun. Like I said, overrated doesn't mean that it was bad. I just think it's overrated as far as when I think of coming of age movies, when I think of John Hughes movies, when I think of that era and that genre, I think they're the ones that more explore more genuinely. I mean, I would say Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, what Cameron Fry goes through in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I think all represent a little bit more genuine exploration of teen angst than what I thought was a hackneyed approach to teen angst in Breakfast Club. This is why I'm going to call that again, not a bad film, but overrated.
I can't wait. I can't wait till our listener Chris Delgado hears this, because he just sent me a message earlier today hammering me because I said the same thing, that I thought that movie was overrated.
I think Breakfast Club, yeah. Okay,
So-
so we talked about Sixth Sense, we talked about Breakfast Club. You agree Avatar is probably overrated?
Horribly.
Yeah, I think that movie is a piece of garbage. I watched it and then it's beautiful in IMAX.
Oh my
But-
God, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, but there are a lot of things that are gorgeous and completely dead on the inside. I think we saw that with Tara Reid. Like,
Yeah.
like
Wow.
but yes, I think that thing. Pretty Woman.
I've sat through 6 hours of these two movies. I have no idea what it's about. And there's a bunch of blue people running around that I don't care about.
What,
But
right?
it is a beautiful, it's probably the most visually stunning film I've ever seen.
It's very beautiful, especially for the time, right? At the nascency of IMAX, at the nascency of CGI and the integration with live action, it was groundbreaking, but it was groundbreaking garbage. That's
Yeah,
the way I
it
felt about
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one.
How about Pretty Woman? What do you think about my inclusion of a Pretty Woman on this list?
That's a hard one for me.
It's fluff. It's fun fluff. Julia Roberts is great, and is it Hector Elizondo?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Richard Gere's just Richard Gere.
And Richard Gere's okay. Honestly, Jason Alexander was probably the only bright spot in that movie to me.
I don't know that I don't know that it's overrated, because I don't know that it's like rated super great. It's a fun movie for me, but I wouldn't call it one that's so great that everybody loves that is really
I
bad.
don't know.
It's a fun movie for me.
I mean, I feel like that's one that gets, yeah, it's maybe not. I just feel like I see it on a lot of people's lists, and I've just never thought. To me, I don't even find it fun. Also, I mean, let's get down to the point of the plot. First of all, I never bought Julia Roberts as a call girl. Honestly, particularly not one that's just walking the streets. It's sort of a rags to riches.
It's Cinderella.
But Cinderella, I don't know. Cinderella was beaten down by her bad step family. Julia
You don't
Roberts.
think her pimp is a bad step family?
I don't think I bought enough that Julia Roberts. She certainly didn't look like anyone that was on Hard Times, particularly at that time. You can't tell me that there aren't a billion other women that look like Julia Roberts that have found a way to get by without having to. And hey, sex work is work. I'm not judging anyone's choice of profession. I didn't find the story terribly believable, and it became just kind of annoying to me. And so the fact that I think maybe why I say overrated is that so many people look at it as a love story when there's a billion better love stories. Right.
It's a popcorn movie. It's just it's an afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the fact that it still gets talked about to this day, still references a pop culture meme. I think that's what I struggle with when I call it overrated. But I will concede that it's not necessarily rated highly, but it was on my list as one that I think I just get annoyed with when people talk about. Well,
All right. What else is on? Fifth Element is a good choice.
Thank you.
yeah,
It's a movie that not a lot of people have seen. And so when the praise comes in for it, they go in expecting something different than what they get, which is probably why you've got it down as overrated. But
It's not good. I can't sit through it. I find no redeeming qualities to it whatsoever.
oh no,
The-
I find it to be amazingly funny and just
Uh,
it's one of those movies you just smile.
I also think why some people are so impressed is because Luke Besson wrote most of it when he was like 19 years old. And I think that's why some people give it more praise. Is they're like, "Holy shit, look what this 19-year-old made."
Yeah, it's a pretty
it also-
phenomenal film when you think about that.
Right? I mean, I think Mila Jovovich does a great job in her role.
Yeah.
I think she communicates more with less words. I think it introduced most of the world to Chris Tucker, which is
yeah,
kind of delightful.
that's the one redeeming quality.
Yeah.
And
You'll see my list has kind of a theme of maybe more fantasy type movies, which
Yeah.
I just is not probably in my genre. So
well, and-
maybe
and
that's why I find them overrated.
I mean, you've got Gary Oldman being at his Gary Oldmanist, so there's also that in that movie.
Yeah.
But I will agree. I do think it's overrated, but I would not say that there's no redeeming value to that movie. I think there's plenty of redeeming value to the movie, but I'm not going to heap the praise that everyone else seems to.
Lord of the Rings is an interesting overrated choice.
I really, really, really wanted to like it.
Yeah.
I felt like the first one had about 4 false endings, and when they kept going, I was like, "Are we seriously still on this fucking trek?" Like I was.
Can I ask you if you read the book as a kid?
I did not. No, I did
Okay.
not read that. I read The Hobbit as a kid. I never read. As a matter of fact, to be completely honest, I had no idea there were other stories other than The Hobbit.
Yeah, and I've read none of them.
So, but I tried to watch it. I just could not. It was long. There were some false endings where I thought, okay, this is the end of it, and then they just keep walking, and I'm just like, I can't. I did not like it.
And then they just kept making sequel.
Right, and I never
sequel
watched the
after
sequels
sequel.
because I couldn't get through the first one. It was so bad. I never watched the sequels. So I hear that Return of the King or whatever that one is like the greatest.
Yes.
I've not watched 1 second of it.
Okay. And what's wrong with Goonies?
It's just not funny. I don't find it funny. I don't. It's not. The weird character with the guy with the weird face creeps me out.
So hold on. I want to preface this, Mike. Chris only recently discovered the Goonies.
Yes, I just watched it in the
Oh.
last year and a half after we
so
started
he,
having a
so
podcast.
he has no nostalgia for it. He has
Yeah,
no
see.
ability to look at that movie through a kid's eyes.
Yeah, which is important.
It's a
With that movie.
huge thing that you need to do is be able to watch that movie through a kid's eyes and not a creepy old man's eyes like Chris has.
Ouch.
He relates more to Brant's dad in that movie than he does to any of the kids in Goonies.
I don't know who that is. Is that the handsome guy in the movie? Is that who that is?
No.
Princess Bride's the same way. Watched it for the first time probably a year ago. My first thought was they don't know that this is the dead guy from earlier. That was my whole. I was so hung up on that. I could not enjoy the rest of the movie. Now, caveat to the Princess Bride. I have probably 3 of my most favorite GIFs that I use on Twitter from that particular movie. So
I was gonna say, literally, in talking about this, you responded with someone with the Princess Bride, Inigo Montoya gif, and I was like, okay. Well,
it's just so clever.
It is.
Why is it clever? I mean, the guy, she doesn't know that that's the guy.
Again, you're looking at it through the wrong lens.
Yeah,
This is-
you're looking for the wrong thing.
This is Peter Falk reading a story to his sick kid in Fred Savage. So he's reading a kid's book. So you have to think about it as a kid's book come to life.
Okay.
So do you remember what being a kid was like? Because I kind of feel like you don't.
It was a while ago. It was a while ago.
It was a while ago for all of us. Yes.
Yes, but that again, also Peter Falk, underrated performance in there. But Cary Elwes is at his most charming. You get Wallace Shawn giving a performance for the ages. Mandy Patinkin, I feel so much for.
Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant, come on.
Should have
Again, the only redeeming quality of that movie.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Robin Wright is a redeeming quality in just about any movie.
That's true. She saves Forrest Gump.
Oh, she absolutely. If Forrest Gump would be a garbage film without Robin Wright, she was the heart and soul of that movie for sure.
Well, yeah, of course.
But also, I mean, I'll go on record and saying Princess Bride probably isn't Rob Reiner's best film. I almost put When Harry Met Sally in my top 5, and I still kind of regret that I didn't.
Yeah, that's a great film.
It literally invented the rom-com. That genre did not exist. The scenes with Billy Crystal and Bruno Kirby having a conversation doing The Wave, absolutely brilliant. I still to this day say, "Oh, but Baby Fishmouth is sweeping the nation" whenever someone is trying to make an awful point. Damn it! You know what? I'm gonna put that in. Go ahead and remove Snatch. Put. Okay,
hold on. I got
When Harry Met Sally.
Put When Harry Met Sally in my top.
Let's make this. Let's fix this. You know what? Your list just got a lot better.
I will say, in defense of, I make fun of Guy Ritchie all the time, and there's a guy that does TikTok videos making fun of Guy Ritchie movies, and they're spot on parodies of Guy Ritchie movies. But I do also love, you see Jason Statham at his not action hero, at more of a quirky. You get to see a great left of center Brad Pitt character as a Pikey. You get to see Dennis Farina being Dennis Farina, but still in a charming way. You get to be introduced to all these other actors. It's a very kind of just fun story. So I will defend Snatch for that point. But yeah, maybe not top 5. But I do think it is a movie that not enough people have seen and more people should watch. And I think more people would enjoy it than they think.
Probably right.
We'll keep going. So you didn't like Princess Bride, you didn't like Goonies. I think you're terrible for both of those opinions because you have lost the heart of a child, which just makes me weep for you.
That's fine. Which is the reason why Raiders of the Lost Ark is on my most favorite, because I literally walked to my local movie theater probably once a week and watched that in the theaters 15 or 16 times as a kid.
Wow.
I loved every minute of that movie.
Did you see any of the sequels?
Yes, I've watched all of them. The Crystal Skull is an absolute abomination and should never be made. So
I would argue, I
hate Shia LaBeouf. I hate that kid.
I would argue, I think Last Crusade is a better movie than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It's close, but for me, it's the nostalgia part. The snakes, the Lost Ark, the tomb with all the snakes. I'm scared to death of snakes. That's probably my favorite scene in that entire movie. The car chase, the epic. He's gonna sword fight this guy, and then he just shoots him in the middle of the street,
which was literally done because Harrison Ford was hungover. Yeah.
Okay, so no shout out to Karen Allen at all.
Oh, good Lord. I think Karen Allen, I fell in love with Karen Allen with that.
Annoying in that movie.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I fell in love with her that movie, and then like between that and Animal House,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
oh
I
my-
forgot she was in that.
oh my goodness, just certainly, yeah, I think she's fantastic.
Do you need a moment?
I do. I very much need a moment. She is, she has been on my mind, like it's just some of those actresses, like Phoebe Cates, who have been on my mind for a very long time. That
Can't
have spent,
imagine why.
yeah, have taken up a lot of mental real estate for the last 30, 40 years. Yeah, I think it's a very good one. Like I said, I actually think Last Crusade beats it, but I think it only beats it by a very narrow margin, and I think probably it's the inclusion of Sean Connery that puts that over the edge.
Yeah.
And really, we have another one this summer.
Yeah, I
We'll see. I really hope they completely wipe Crystal Skull off the map and don't even reference it, to be honest with you.
They probably won't reference it.
It's so
that,
bad.
to me, that's not canon. That's
I was so disappointed in that movie. It was ridiculous.
everyone was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of these days we'll have to expose the virtue of the argument that Indiana Jones technically is not needed in that movie in order for the Ark to never be found. Because if it wasn't for Indiana Jones, they would have never found it. This was referenced in a TV show, a Big Bang Theory, where they would have always had the wrong location if Indiana Jones would have never shown up. I'm not quite sure I've followed it before. I fully understand it, so I'm sure somebody will explain it to me, but there's apparently that theory out there.
I guess I hadn't even thought about it.
Now I gotta look it up.
All right, so the last one we haven't talked about, original Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. I mean, it's iconic, I guess, but I just never enjoyed the movie. And again, maybe this is me watching it several years after it came out and just not appreciating what it was for. It took me a long, long time to figure out what the whole Statue of Liberty thing meant at the end. So,
Well, and I think it's a movie that time has not been kind to it.
Yeah.
I mean, the special effects are horrible. Roddy McDowell, I just, but in the day, when you saw that movie and that ending comes up, it's like, oh my God. So, Chris, I won't tell you what it means, but you'll figure it out at some point.
You know what's funny to me is I would agree that time has not been kind to that movie, but I would argue that time has been worse to the Mark Wahlberg remake of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
I think that thing aged out in about 5 minutes.
that was terrible.
Yeah. Agreed.
Which is
Agreed.
why I wrote the original, because I did not want you to think at any point that I thought that other people thought the remake was any good.
All
Okay,
right.
the theory of Indiana Jones not being irrelevant is because had Indy just simply stayed home, the Nazis still would have opened up the Ark of the Covenant at the end, and all of them would have melted and died.
Yep, that makes sense.
So he's irrelevant to the plot.
I think it's fair.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Can we take a spin? Are we
Yeah.
done? Are we done with the hard lifting?
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what each of you, without having to prepare for it, what were your top 5 movies of last year?
I
Oh,
don't know that I saw any this last year.
I'm trying to think of what. So the problem is that, well, first of all, since movie theaters are kind of a dead thing, and also I was talking with someone at work today about how a year ago he had ended COVID restrictions, but then COVID restrictions started 3 years ago. Anything from 2019 on feels like last year. Is that a fair statement?
It in a sense, yes.
Okay.
That's fair. Okay, so you don't see movies in a theater. Did you see Top Gun Maverick at the IMAX?
Yes. Yeah, I did see it. I saw it at the Palms actually. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
IMAX. So, yep.
I
Uh,
I think that was I think it was good. I did not see it in the theater, but I thought it was very good.
I
you-
geeked out of it, thought it was great, thought it was better than the original.
I would agree, and I think they did a wonderful job of finding that woman who was referenced just briefly in the first film,
Yes.
and then give her a full character. It's
Yes. And I
like,
picked
it's
that.
the general's daughter.
I was super disappointed at the very end when he went into her bar and the old man that came out carrying beer was not the admiral. That's what I was really hoping that he was going to be the admiral. I thought that would be great. I did see King Richard. I watched it on HBO.
Yeah.
And I thought that was phenomenal as well. I really, really liked King Richard.
I thought Licorice Pizza was a very solid movie for 2022. Mostly because Philip Seymour Hoffman's son was just not only the spitting image of him, he found a way to capture Philip Seymour Hoffman's charm, but still kind of add his own thing to it. I thought what's her name from Heim was a way better actress than I thought she would be. The story kind of creeped me out, but it had the quirkiness that I was expecting, but a lot more heartfelt moments than I anticipated. And again, the performances I thought were very solid.
Yeah, so I just thought it was too quirky. I thought it was quirky, for the sake of being quirky, and that was like they had a perfect opportunity to make a charming little film, and they just wanted to be a little more quirky than they were.
I certainly think that's fair. I mean, that's Paul Thomas Anderson to a T, though, right?
Right.
Like it literally felt like every other Paul Thomas Anderson film in that sense.
See, and I think Magnolia is brilliant. I love Magnolia.
You know what's funny is all the Paul Thomas Anderson fans I love Magnolia more than I did. I don't know why I did not like that as much as some of his other movies. Punch Drunk Love I thought was a better movie. I can't tell you why. Something about Magnolia, maybe it was just the time that it came out or who I was when it came out. I think it's a nice film.
As soon as it started raining frogs, I was locked in.
I think that's where quirk felt too far for me.
All right. Did either one of you see the Batman?
No, I was just going to bring
Yes.
up the Batman. I did cheat and just go look at the movies just because, to Tim's point, the years now have ran together. So I'm terrible at knowing what movie came out when. So the Batman I did see. There's one that I thought, again, how many remake new arc stories of the Batman are they going to do? Because the Christian Bale ones to me were so phenomenal.
They were.
That I was surprised that they were, but this one with Robert Patrick I thought was better.
I almost put the 1988 or 1989 Michael Keaton Batman in
The first
in my
one?
top 5. I almost put that in my top 5 as well.
Of favorites?
Yeah. Again, based off of my criteria of having watched it a billion times. Also, I think what that did to reignite the superhero movie genre. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, the pendulum has swung too far. Avengers Endgame never should have happened. Like
I think it's still going. I think I left the theater and it just keeps going.
Yeah, as I say, well, there's no end game to that movie, but what Tim Burton's Batman did to reignite the superhero movie genre, particularly since like the last one that had been out that was kind of worth anything was the Superman franchise, which I still think was kind of not good. I mean, when I say kind of not good, I think it was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Even the original with the original Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, Superman 3 with Richard Pryor, that at that point jumped the shark. But
for sure. But even the original, I think, was it's still schlocky.
Has there ever been a good Superman movie though?
Well, to be fair, probably not. But
It's a hard character
It is.
to put on screen.
I
yeah,
think so.
But
but
Batman is not.
No,
And
it's gritty. It's
Yeah. And,
But
and this new one was so dark.
yeah,
I mean, in its look, in its feel, in it was just, I still think it's the best movie I saw last year.
yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I was surprised that I loved it. I was ready to hate it. That was one of those deals when they announced him as Batman. I was like, I can't get past Twilight, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure that.
I had
That,
no expectation of him being as good as he was.
Yeah,
And it was the dark Batman. I mean, Batman's a tough character because
mhm.
he can be comedic, he can be dark, he can be light. I like my Batman dark.
well, and I think that's what I liked about Tim Burton's. Some of the. I think Tim Burton showed a certain sensibility towards the comic books with his over the top colors and certain things, and it almost was a nod to the early Batman TV show.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholas had some sort of almost nods to Sid Caesar's Joker. You had some of that, I think. Kill me as a Minnesotan to say that the Prince thing was a little bit much. But I think Michael Keaton. I mean, I already had a Michael Keaton movie on there. I almost put Mr. Mom on my top 5 as well. I think Michael Keaton is one of those actors that is just so good at what he does that I don't think people appreciate how good he is.
Yeah. Michael Keaton was brilliant as Batman.
Absolutely. And it was such a turn, right?
Right. Yeah. Who saw that coming?
Yeah, that's what's funny about the people that have been cast as Batman. I mean, other than Christian Bale, I don't remember a lot of blowback, but when people talked about Michael Keaton being cast as him and Ben Affleck being cast of him and Robert Patrick, George Clooney, that was warranted. I mean, him and Val Kilmer were terrible, but the amount of hatred by the hardcore fans when they cast those guys, but they turned out really well. I mean, I was surprised that I would like this last one more than I did the Christian Bale ones, and I loved the Christian Bale ones.
Yeah.
And honestly, did not think they'd get any more grittier than that, to be honest with you.
And then they did.
Yes, they did.
Okay. Have either of you seen the Banshees of Sharon?
Yes, that was one I was thinking of that I should say.
I don't even know what that is, Mike.
It's Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. Their follow-up to In Bruges.
And again, In Bruges might have been one that was dangerously close to hitting my top 5.
Right. Well, it definitely hit the top 5 in the number of F-bombs.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I think In Bruges is when I took Colin Farrell seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
And I expect him to take the Oscar home.
I
and
think,
Chris, if you haven't seen this movie or heard of it, it's about two great friends. It's like 1923. They're on an island off of Ireland, and Brendan Gleeson comes up to Colin Farrell one day and says, we've been great friends for years, and I need to end our friendship. He says, we've had every conversation we will ever have, and I just don't take it personally, but I just need to move on. And Colin Farrell is beside himself and just absolutely refuses to let this guy do that. And it gets pretty dark by the end of the movie.
Interesting.
But it's a great film.
I think early on in Colin Farrell's career, he was just kind of seen as this pretty boy, sort of bad boy type of celebrity more than an actor. I think, like I said, In Bruges is where it took a turn, and I think this one was really the way that this is drama and comedy at its finest, and the way that he plays funny parts as straight and as earnestly and as seriously as he does. Like, to me, the funniest comedy isn't wink, wink, nudge, nudge comedy. It's genuineness, and the way that he kind of does that gives, like, you laugh when you shouldn't laugh. And like you said, it gets dark, but I think Colin Farrell has a lot more sensitivity as an actor than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah. And Colin Farrell was in the Batman movie. I get to the end of the movie, I had no idea that was Colin Farrell because he's got so much
Yeah.
makeup on.
Yeah.
So The Menu, did you see The Menu?
I didn't. That's on my list.
It is unlike anything you've ever seen. It's just so off the wall, and you have no idea from minute to minute where it's going. It's really good. What else is on here?
The one that I would like to see that has just recently come out is A Man Called Otto.
Oh, did you see I mean, there was a Swedish film back in the 80s.
No,
Played at the
I was
Varsity.
gonna say I can answer that for Chris. No, he hasn't seen that.
Yeah, A Man Called.
You lost me in Swedish, Mike.
I think it was
Swedish
a man
in
called
the 80s. You lost me.
A Man Called Ove, and it was a great movie. And this one, then they made an American sequel to it that was not good. And then Tom Hanks picks this one up and just delivers one of the better performances of the year.
That's a movie that just by the trailer alone enticed me to want to go see it.
Yeah, I talked to a woman at the Y on the way out today. She's like, all right, give me a movie I need to see. And I said, A Man Called Otto. She goes, oh, my husband and I saw it the other day. It is great. So it's definitely a crowd pleaser, and it's, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry. It's one of those movies.
What is one, let's ask this around the horn and I'll start, but the last movie that you saw that was just obscure that you came across that you hadn't seen? For me, I was actually scrolling through HBO Max last night and came across Game Changer, which is the biopic about Steve Schmidt, who actually runs the Lincoln Project now. And he was John McCain's campaign manager and helped handpick Sarah Palin. And then the absolute shit show that ended up to that be. I found it interesting because I assumed that it was some sort of a hatchet piece. But as I read information about the movie, Steve Schmidt has come out and said that everything in that movie is 100% accurate on how he felt about it. So it was interesting. And you can see at the end of the movie, the beginnings of the vitriol in politics in 2008. I watched the entire thing. I did not stop watching. I was that engrossed with it. And it was so well done that at one point, I kind of felt sorry for Sarah Palin's character. Believe it or not, which if anybody knows me is not in my genre.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
But just because at one point she was so isolated and so handled and she couldn't be herself now, and you felt a little bad for her. But man, that was a powerful, the ending of that movie was really powerful. How you saw the crowd start to turn and become even more vitriol as to what they are now. So,
what's the name of it?
Game Changer. It's on HBO Max.
Okay.
Ed Harris plays John McCain. Woody Harrelson plays Steve Schmidt, and Julianne Moore plays Sarah Palin.
Oh, that's got to be fun. I'll find that one. That one sounds good.
Tim, last obscure movie that you just didn't think you just stumbled upon and watched and you thought was good.
Boy. Ooh.
All right, Tim,
that's a
give
tough
us some.
one. Yeah, you come back to me.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
Oh,
Mike,
you
what
want
were
me
you
to?
gonna say?
Okay, I've got two that would fit that. One was a movie called The Outfit, and I don't know if either of you saw it. It was a Mark Rylance plays a tailor in London, and he is a tailor for the gangsters. They come in and they get the finest clothes, and he fits them, and then things start to turn, and you find out that the people you thought were doing one thing were not doing one thing. It's just really a really good movie. And I'm sure it's on streaming now. And the other one, and Keith Murphy called me the other day and he says, "Hey, you got to watch this movie called Emily the Criminal. It's really good." And I said, "Keith, I reviewed it about 6 months ago." I said, "Thanks for paying attention." But it's about this woman who's just struggling with credit card debt, and she gets in with the wrong group of people and she can't get out. It is really, really well done. So those two movies, if you're looking for something different, are well worth looking.
Shoot. This one's a couple years old, but I didn't find it until later. What is it called? Oh, Sorry to Bother You, Lakeith Stanfield. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
Lakeith Stanfield is best known on the TV show Atlanta.
Okay.
And he plays this down on his luck character who gets a job at a telemarketing firm where he learns from Danny Glover, I believe, that the best way to get ahead is to use his white person voice, and his white person voice is voiced by, I think, David Cross. And it goes completely bizarre, but I would say it goes down a road that is absurd but highly enjoyable. Like I said, it's probably 3 or 4 years old. I don't remember where I originally came across it. But he does a great job in that. I think Lakeith Stanfield is maybe an underappreciated actor who probably is due to break out in a few years. But yeah, Sorry to Bother You, I believe is what it's called.
Huh.
And yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, I think Mike, you might actually enjoy watching that one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I got to tap out.
Okay.
Chris, I'm headed for Mayo in the morning for a PET scan.
Well, good luck.
So I don't anticipate having any problems with that, but I'm kind of like the residual the insurance guys get, every 3 months I come back.
Yeah, I had that. Mine
Wow.
was every 6 months. No, I get
Wow.
it. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot
That
of
was fun. Now, do
Yeah,
you
it
think
was-
people are actually going to watch this and stay awake?
Yeah, well, we pull a little bit of the audio, a little bit of the video, and then we'll I'll probably pull I think I found a pretty funny moment where we made fun of Tim at about the 58-minute mark. So I'll pull that
okay.
Okay, good.
to
Good.
tease, but then we'll post the audio. I'll tag you in it. If you could just retweet it and promote it, that would be
Sure.
great.
And I would prefer you use the segments where I'm not on camera.
Yeah. Okay. That's the best part. Right.
Exactly. Watch the very beginning because you won't
Yeah,
have to
there you
look
go.
at him. Then he
There you go.
figures it out.
We have a decent listener base, but we have probably 7 rabid fans that when we tag you will chime in with their also terrible movie
Right.
opinions.
Like
So-
Christella Gardell and Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, exactly. So
All right, guys. Hey, it was fun. Thank you very much. And thanks for asking me.
No problem.
yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Mike.
you very much.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
See ya.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit different for us, but it was good. I thought I did have to chuckle when the Marty Terrell reference came up.
Right. It's a small world around here.
Yeah, apparently. Boy, Des Moines, what you doing? But
Right.
no, we didn't get a chance to ask him our Wintrust Mortgage question of the pod, which is okay. But please go ahead and check out Kyle Lehman for all of your mortgage needs. Chris, what else do you want to go ahead and make sure our listeners are aware of?
Keep a track of Hot Mess Happy Hour. I think they're going to schedule an outing down at Revelton Distilling Company at Rob and Christie's place. So keep an eye out on social media for that. And I think that's really about it right now. It's kind of slow in February. So
It's that time of year. A lot more exciting things are due to happen. I'm really excited as we get into college basketball tournament season to know what everyone gets fired up about, whether that be Anya, whether that be the Hot Mess Happy Hour ladies, whether that be Side of the Storm, or even ourselves. I have a feeling you and I might have an opinion or two
A little bit.
on that. So we've got more to come with that. Other than that, folks, we really appreciate you listening to yet another edition of Old Man Strength. Once again, this is a podcast of Three Beards Media. You can find us on the web at threebeardsmedia.com. You can find Chris Zygrad Dad on Twitter. I'm Tim Johnson MN on Twitter. There are a whole bunch of other things, so please go ahead and check out all of that content. Please go ahead and subscribe to our feed if you have not, as well as all the other Three Beards Media podcasts. We very much appreciate that. And with that, we will catch you guys next time.